title these two videos, make sure they're titled together. So I was making a point before about artificial intelligence, and, primarily in the realm of the image rendering of persons and other kinds of things, creatures, monsters, cryptids, entities, yada yada yada. And I was making a point about their faces, and that these are and then the point I was making is that there was the whole kind of an uncanny valley kind of effect where you didn't know, where you could not only just tell that they were simply off, it's that they have this particular behavioral tick, which is almost like it hasn't got like all the micro nuances of the behavioral ticks of that character, right? Like early shit in AI was doing things where it was trying to take a beloved celebrity like Jack Black or something, and it was doing its best to make some sort of video where that character as you knew it was doing something that you've never seen that actor or character do before, and it's like, here he is eating a bowl of spaghetti, right? And, an AI at the time wasn't very good at showing you what it is to eat something, let alone a bowl of spaghetti. And then it's also trying to figure out Jack Black, but it hasn't even figured out Hands yet. And the problem is that the application programming behind AI is so good and so in the pocket of trying to learn everything all at once, is that you're rarely seeing a mastered fucking product, right? It's like AI was sitting there trying to make everything look hyper realistic, yet but it kept screwing up fingers and hands, right? And it was just like the people who set it up gave you like this ugly process where you're not really seeing AI learn how to crawl. You're trying to watch AI learn how to fly, and so its flying keeps failing as it's doing the motions for crawling, instead of sitting there and saying, no, when you fly, you do this, right? But it doesn't get it in its base operation. It's just on its knees and crawling, right? If you get the allegory, right? You're jumping way ahead in your talent. So I made then the other point that I was making before everything got cut off was about it's a little bit different when you're looking at the commission of somebody doing a thing, right? Like a lot of the AI shit that you have seen in the last few years has been, the combination of people with that are into creepypasta, combined with watching this thing learn how to do its thing. And what's really come along is independent content creators who are merely guilty of using the services of AI instead of like hiring an artist, commissioning an artist to do a thing, which I think is kind of inevitable because you've got way more content creators that are not wealthy people, and then they gotta pay a starving artist who is willing to do shit for the "you've never heard of me" fee, right? When you're doing your craft, before you've built your name, your reputation, you can't charge the same amount of money as somebody who is a big name. I do my tarot and rune readings, and I charge $120 for an hour of that. And I raised my price after many, many, many years of a marginally lower price, because I was building up the torque of the worth of my craft and my name. To say, like, yeah, I am worth this. These readings are worth this. To put that worth into that reading is to also get the tremendous depth of the reading. And it takes a lot, because for a lot of people, $120, that's like 1 day's pay, right? I'm gonna give Steve 1 day's pay because he has a particular interpretation of mystical symbolisms that we know from the Western magical tradition. And I'm going to pay Steve 1 day's pay to do an hour of work, which involves sitting down and using your brain to talk to the person and give them advice. And that's a certain amount of trust. There's a lot of trust involved in getting someone to agree to that and to give them what they paid for. So people are spending the time to do different kinds of AI and to not give you this fucking problem of it being like horrendous clickbait, right? You can find a beautiful use for AI in that respect. If you don't make it everything all the time, forever, right? It'd be great if you can get yourself to a point where you're now out, now you're using like real people. You've graduated from AI to real quality artists that you can afford to commission to make little videos for your show, to retool the introduction for your show, right? Guys like Paranoid American are very good at this. James True has done this to a healthy and positive effect, right? You have to spend your time telling the computer what you want and then refining your meaning of it, right? It's the exact same thing remote viewers are doing, because remote viewing, part of your training for remote viewing is expanding your vocabulary. You need to have a whole archived set of descriptive words to go through and get the illustrative details of what you are seeing. I'd recommend the remote viewing sessions of Dick Allgaier. Listen to how he goes through things, and he has different words for tactile sensation, different words for sense, a higher range of knowledge of color palette. So that way, he's not just saying it's green. He's not just crudely saying it's bluish green. He'll be like, it's aquamarine, right? You know? And if you can say that, because, you know, if I tell AI, hey, draw me a red Corvette, and it gives me like fire engine red because it's assuming, and I'm just like, oh no, I need a darker shade of red. And if I just say darker shade of red, it could go into a barely perceptible fucking gradient of light to all the way down to like a dark like blood wine kind of dark red, right? There's all sorts of tones of the same kind of red, right? So if you spend that time, and then ultimately it's all about that final product, right? It's like when somebody talks about cloning, for instance, right? Because when AI is like making like a version of you, you're asking for a visual model of a synthetic replicant of you, of a digital replicant of you, not even synthetic. Right? It's your choice to publish the final result. You may want to go back to the drawing board and say, I don't want anybody else to see this. This is horrid, right? This is like the same thing in cloning, right? Fucking Alien 4 of all films is a great fucking example of this. With Ripley. You know, Ripley was like the 20-somethingth clone, and every other fucking clone was a horrible amalgamation of human xenomorph fucking abomination, just homunculus xenomorph human woman, right? You know, being used for experimentation into perfection, right? You're doing the same thing. You know, it's just the ethical question of are these human enough, right? You know, if you're the kind of person that's going to ask that question, you know, hard to say if that question is valid in play, kind of against it principally speaking. So anyway, yeah. So we're being shown all the ugly in-betweens of a final product because the thing is they had to roll out AI while it was still in development. And often these insane people in the scientific engineering community and such, they don't know what their shit is. They can't, they don't understand the effect on the psyche, and then they just point to people with the weakest psyches that are just freaked out and just saying that they're backwards for being freaked out instead of knowing that they're intuitively picking up on something very serious, very real, as an inherent problem of this thing. That's kind of the fact of the matter. You know what? That makes more sense. Anyway, so that I've ranted on twice about this shit, I am done. But long story short is I still would never trust AI. You should mitigate your use of it. If you must, ask it pertinent questions about it itself before you start thinking of it in trustable manners. That it's just a tool per se, because it's been proven to have some very tricky and concerning answers to questions, much more profound than are you really self-aware, yada yada yada. All right, that's all I have to say. Catch you later.